Today I'm going to show you how to fix the minus button as well as the L button on a left Nintendo Switch Joy-Con. For this repair you will need a replacement part. That part can be purchased on eBay. I'll have an affiliate link in the description below. This will have the minus button as well as the L button on one ribbon cable. The only tools you will need is a screwdriver with Phillips 00 and Tri-Wing or Y00. I also will be using tweezers and a spudger, but they're not required. Alright, let's start. So we're going to start by opening the shell. To open the shell you will need the Tri-Wing or the Y00. There are 4 screws on the back. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This Joy-Con was actually missing a screw, that's why I only took 3 out. I've got extras, I'm just going to add it on later. Okay, now that the screws are out, you're going to pull off this back plate. It's going to take the rail with it, and there is a ribbon cable, so be very careful. I'm just going to grab down at the bottom here, and then you'll see there's 2 ribbon cables right in the center there holding this together, so you don't want to tear that off because you can damage those ribbon cables. I'm going to just leave those connected, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this battery out. Now there is adhesive underneath this battery. It's not that strong. What I like to do is there's this little slot right here that you can get to it. Just push my spudger underneath and then pop it off. And then just set that to the side. A lot of times you'll want to disconnect the battery when doing work like this, but realistically we're only replacing one ribbon cable. Once you're down to that, now we have to take this mid shell off because we have to get down to the main board. So the mid shell actually has 3 screws, and you're going to switch from your Tri to your Phillips. And you've got 1 screw down here, and then 2 screws here. You'll see there's 4 screws. Only 2 of them hold this down. The other 2 are to hold the main board down. Once those 3 screws are removed, this whole middle section will come out. Just be careful, there is another ribbon cable, and that is for the ZL button. Just go ahead and set this on the side. Okay, so once you get that mid shell gone, you will see the L button here. This is your minus button, and this is actually the R button itself. They're in by just Phillips screws, and there is a ribbon cable that goes down and into the board here. So first thing, I'm just going to pull out the L button here. It just lifts out. There is a spring there, and we'll put that back in later. And then I'm actually going to disconnect the ribbon cable first. So there is this little gray tab here. You just have to lift up on it. So I'm going to use my spudger. Okay, that's lifted up. And then to remove it, I'm just going to use my tweezers. And there you go. That ribbon cable is removed. Now that ribbon cable is disconnected, I can just undo these 3 screws. There's our cable we need to replace. So with the new cable, you will notice that the R button is not in the right spot. So just kind of match that bend. You're just going to take your R button, bend it up, and just match that bend. It doesn't have to be perfect and stay because you are going to be screwing that down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screw this down first and then connect the ribbon cable, just to give us a little more security. So I'll go ahead and screw down the minus button first. And there is a little plastic tab at the top to kind of guide it into the right spot. And then once you're there, just screw it in. Don't over tighten it. You just want it to stay in. You don't want to over tighten it. And then we've got our R button. This one you're going to probably have to hold in place a little bit more just because it does have that bend back it has to do. So I like to get one of the screws started just to get it into the right spot. Don't tighten it all the way. And then put in the second screw. And once you have the second screw in, you can tighten them both down. Again, just remember, don't over tighten. Okay, so that is screwed down. So now we need to take this ribbon cable and we need to connect it back to the main board. This is a little bit tricky. If you have tweezers, it's going to help you a lot, but I like to just grab it with the tweezers. Oh, we got to make sure our tab is up. That gray tab needs to be up. Okay, it's up again. Then just grab this with our tweezers and just put it into place. It's not going to go in that far, so don't worry about trying to force it. But this is a little bit tricky, just because you're trying to get it lined up properly and trying to get pressure on that ribbon cable without damaging it. Okay, that ribbon cable is in. So then we're just going to push down the tab, and there we go. Let's go ahead and put this back together and test and see if it works. So when you're putting the L button back in, it needs to sit underneath. There's like a lip on the button itself that sits underneath these plastic sides. And then you've got your spring. You got to make sure that that's in there properly. Sometimes it'll be a little goofy and you need to just kind of push it into place. But that's good. Then we've got our mid frame. Remember, we've got 3 screws for the mid frame. Then our battery flips into place. Remember, the battery does have a cable, so it's going to go this specific direction to keep that cable tucked into that spot. Then we can put our back shell back on. When that goes back on, the rail itself is going to slide in to some tracks. Then we're going to flip from our Phillips back to our tri-wing. And for some reason, these tri-wing screws are not magnetic. So it just makes it a little more annoying to grab them and put them in place. I am missing a screw, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Still good enough for testing. Alright, let's see if that fixed the issue. And there we go. That minus button is now working. Let's just test every other button to make sure. Perfect. Alright guys, so that's it. A very simple repair of that minus button or the L button on a left Joy-Con for a Nintendo Switch. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps with the channel and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.